Jeremy, I'm reading this book about Henry Clay, and you know, he was known for being what's called a scientific farmer.
One of the first of their time, right?
Yeah, and he was really into crop rotation, all that kind of stuff. But one of the more interesting things, and something we're going to cover here today, is his work in beef,
right?
And all of that sort of thing. And I've got a little recipe here, and I want you to follow my instructions. I'm like, just joking.
I don't
Turn it over to Chef.
So we're going to do something that's Henry Clay related today, and make something with top sirloin. And I heard he liked an oyster souffle too.
Good
so we're going to do
taste.
some nice creamy oysters on top of it with bourbon, another thing that Henry Clay was known to partake of, right?
So sneak off with to Washington.
Right. First of all, we'll get our pan hot. I think the most important thing about you know, beef and searing and cooking with meat is proper seasoning. A lot of people just really hold back on seasoning, and it just makes the outcome so much better. So I've got a nice coarse salt here and pepper. Pan's good and hot. We'll start with a little olive oil, good maybe a tablespoon. It doesn't take much. Get a little brown going on.
Ah, sizzle.
Right, that's the sound you're looking for. So I'm going to move this to the back burner and just kind of let it do its thing. So this pan is heating up, and what I want to do is, instead of searing, we're going to sweat some ingredients and really extract some flavors. I'm going to start with a little bit of oil, another tablespoon or so.
Did you say sweat?
Sweat. And nice pat of butter. It's a little bit hard. We'll put that in there too. Now, I love the way that when you use olive oil and butter, you get the earthiness, the tones of olive oil, and then the creaminess.
The best of both
butter,
worlds.
yeah. So I'm going to start with the aromatics. This is a nice shallot. If you want to use onion, that's fine, but something in that family.
That smells good, huh?
Exactly.
That's what you mean. Oh,
yeah. The aromatic, and it's exactly what I mean. Onion and garlic, they both perfume, and it sets this tone in the pan. All that oil,
garlic, right?
That's garlic, and all that oil is going to be,
so
you know, infused with all that good garlic and onion flavor. That's an intoxicating smell that you get when you walk in. This smell right here is what makes me want to cook. This is what gets me started and keeps me coming back every time.
I
the
love that smell.
Onion and garlic. So I'm going to turn down the heat a little bit. I had it on high, but just to a nice medium-low.
They're like simmering in there.
Yeah, I'm really not going to rush this. You know, this gets to go for a good 2 minutes while our meat is browning on one side. Now I'm going to flip it over. And when you're flipping, please flip away from you.
Yeah,
that way the oil doesn't splatter. We'll turn that over.
Oh, those look delicious.
Oh, yeah. Great, just a little back and forth, and those things are going to be done. Now the oil is starting to, the garlic is starting to brown just a touch. So I'm going to add some more ingredients to cause the sweating.
Now this is
celery. I'd say a good quarter cup of that. A good quarter cup of carrot. Yeah. Now, more good stuff.
All right.
This is called fennel. And I love the way fennel works with oysters and bourbon. It gives it this stew-like quality and this almost licorice flavor. It's highly underused, but this is a great application. Cream and fennel and oysters, this is one of my favorite things. It's almost like a little oyster stew. And I'm going to push my ingredients to one side of the pan. What that does is allow this part to get a little bit hotter, to kind of roast these mushrooms alone over here. While that stuff continues to sweat. See the steam coming up? It's not getting as hot as it is over here. So this is an oyster mushroom. You use a good half a cup of those.
Now the only difference, like in Henry Clay's time, that you know, he wouldn't have been able to get things in the dead of winter. He had to use what he had.
Right.
And mushrooms are grow in Kentucky, like, I guess all the time, right?
Well, you can get them right into the dead of winter.
Different kinds.
And, you know, who knows what they foraged and knew to do. A little bit of butter in there with the mushrooms. This part over here is going nicely.
You know, she had, Lucretia had a dairy farm and made a whopping $1,500 a year, and that was a lot of money back there.
That is a lot of money.
Selling at the Lexington markets.
So this little steak right here is kind of how I like it, a good medium rare.
How did you know that? You poked at it.
Years of experience, but you know,
very gently you poked.
Exactly. There's several little ways to do that. This one I'm going to cook a little longer, and we're going to finish this up a very special way with nice fresh herbs. Back into this pan, though, the mushrooms have sweated just a little bit. I'm going to reintroduce all the other ingredients. It's really smelling good, huh? Okay, now a little pat of butter because we're going to do a little thing called a pan roux, like a little sange of flour to thicken up the sauce.
I know what this is.
Yeah, the flour, right?
Yeah.
So I want you to take your fingers like this and just sprinkle a little bit right in here.
How'd I do?
You did good. You just want to do about 2 times more.
Oh.
And see how this butter is getting foamy? Kind of creating a nice little roux. Good. It doesn't take much. It really thickens up well.
Sort of a gravy-like thing, huh?
I'm going to let this cook on low over here just for about 1 minute. And I'm going to take this other steak out.
Good.
And let it rest for a moment.
Now, by the way you've done that, do you know what they look like inside? Are they like medium?
They're medium rare.
Which is the perfect way
It's the way I like it.
to have beef?
Bourbon.
Well, let me have a sip of that
A good
first.
about half of it's going to go right in there. And see how that sauce starts to thicken up? So
all right, now what do we do?
So see how this bourbon's kind of thickening there? I want to add some nice heavy cream and add a little bit at a time. And stir in the ingredients.
Now, Jeremy, one of the things that people talk about is healthy eating.
Right.
And these are like rich ingredients, but you know, I think enjoyable eating is pretty important too. And I bet Henry Clay believed that too. You know, little bourbon, little cream, never hurt anybody. As long as you eat in moderation,
It doesn't take much of this. A little extra cream. We're trying to get the right consistency.
Sure.
See, it's a little bit thick, and that's on purpose because the next ingredient, one of Henry Clay's obvious favorites here, and I'm sure a real treat in this region because you just didn't get them very often, is a nice oyster.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm going to add a few of these fresh oysters in there and a little bit of their juice, the liqueur.
Now it's going to smell real good.
Okay, let those simmer down. And I like a good medium rare to medium oyster. If you want to cook them longer in the pan, just fine, no problem. Finish up a little extra seasoning, salt and pepper. So I'm going to give this a little bit of a test.
What do you think?
Not bad at all. The oyster liqueur really adds a lot. And one thing I think people do is, you know how I put in half the bourbon? I want to finish with the other half right at the very end. That way we've got that raw bourbon flavor. A lot of recipes tend to cook out the bourbon and doesn't leave much of that kind of bite that I like, kind of, you know, the one that gets you in the back of the throat. That's what's really neat about bourbon.
Oh, that is a pretty sauce.
So our stew is ready to go.
All right,
Now I want to talk about finishing the steaks. In the back pan, I'm going to lightly heat up all those good bits with some more butter.
The beefy bits.
Now notice when the butter hits the pan, you can kind of see some of these good bits scraping up, right? And we're going to just kind of throw the meat back in there with a little fresh thyme on top, and roll your pan back and just kind of do a little basting of the fresh herb right on top. So that oil from the thyme is dripping down. Do this for a good couple minutes, and the fresh herb flavor will really roll right into your meat. So. Okay.
Now what?
The meat is finishing in the pan. You get the good oils from the thyme dripping down on them.
Yeah. And that's all that's meant to be, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's,
You know, we just kind of threw that in there and let the oil seep in, give it a nice little scent, that perfume of fresh thyme. But the steak is pretty much done. We'll go ahead and put that down. And, you know, if you want to layer all platter out, that's fine. If you want to slice it, it's good. But we'll just kind of make this look pretty for our purposes, right? And then
we're going to cut it pretty soon.
I like to dive right into those big oysters and make sure you get, you know, a good one on each piece of meat. And then we'll really just sauce it up with all those other good ingredients.
Is there any trick to finding oysters in grocery stores? I mean, they're just everywhere, right? And they come from everywhere.
Well,
do you prefer New Orleans or Chesapeake Bay?
I love all oysters. Just to kind of make this one over the top, with, you know, if you want to do this at home, a little pinch of this fresh crab meat would be great. And then, you know, the fennel we put in there, I like to garnish with just a few little fronds. It's just a great presentation. It really does.
It is beautiful.
You know, the garnishes should make sense with the dish. There should be some congruence with what's in the dish on top of the plate. So,
I want a little piece of this. gotta get some of that sauce here.
Yes, you do.
If I can get it just right. Okay.
Not bad?
Not bad, Chef. You're good.
All right. Let's see how we did here. I'm gonna go for the oyster combination with the beef, little chef surf and turf. I love like that nice mid-rare too. And I like the frond.
Well, we've really enjoyed being with Henry Clay, and this has been great. And thank you, Chef, for this.
Well, thanks for letting me cook for you. I enjoy the recipe. If you guys want to learn to make this, check out www.foodnewsandchews.com, and we'll see you next time.